Scylla Lumen Omentiovo. Today I bring to you all the history of Hithlum. Hithlum was a Ñoldoran kingdom in the First Age in the northern regions of Beleriand. The kingdom was surrounded by the arid Wethrin, the Mountain of Shadows. Along its borders were Nevrast in the west, Dorlomen in the south, Dorthonion in the west, and Angband in the northwest. The first elves to live in Hithlum were Sindar. They created no major cities and dwelt nearer to Lake Mithrim. When the Feanorians arrived before the First Age began, they settled Lake Mithrim after the Dagor Nuin Gileath. There they were joined by the rest of the Noldor soon after. Tensions were high among the Noldor for the actions the Feanorians did, such as the burning of the ships at Loskar. Fingon would rescue Maithros in the 7th year, and Maithros, to make amends with the other Noldor, forgoes his claim to kingship and removes to the eastern regions of Beleriand. Fingolfin, now the High King of the Noldor, made Hithlum his domain. The capital city was the fortress of Barad Aethil at the base of the Mountains of Shadow and along the banks of the river Sirion. When 20 years had passed, Fingolfin invited many elves from all over Beleriand to come to Hithlum for celebration. The Nirnaeth Arnoediad was a grand time, and many friendships and alliances would be made. With Hithlum being the seat of the High King and being so close to Angband made the kingdom one of Morgoth's major targets in his wars. In the Dagor Aglareb, Fingolfin led the elves of Hithlum in joining the sons of Finarfin in repelling Morgoth's forces and starting the siege of Angband. Many Hithlum elves were committed to the siege. But the siege was not as effective as it might have been, for the elves had no way to block off the northern parts of Angband from the rest of Beleriand. Almost 100 years into the siege, Morgoth sent hordes of orcs to assail Hithlum. The elves were not caught at unawares, though, for scouts had spotted the orcs and alerted Fingolfin. His son, Fingon, led the counterattack that crushed the orcs and sent them back. When Glaurung, the first of the dragons, revealed himself on the plains of Ard Gallon, it was archers from Hithlum, led by Fingon, that repulsed the great worm. In the year 300, men first arrived in Beleriand, and Fingolfin welcomed men of the House of Marach into Hithlum and his service. To the man Hador, lord of Marach's house, Fingolfin gave the region of Dorlomen within Hithlum to Hador to rule as a fief. One wintry night in the year 455, fires and lava streamed forth from the Thangorudrim, and many elves fell to the fires. The rivers of fire were halted by the arid Wethrin, but Hithlum now came under attack by the vast armies of Morgoth. To the many fortresses around the mountains where Fingolfin and the Noldor pushed back, and many great heroes fell, such as Hador and his youngest son Gundor. But Hithlum held out, and the attack upon its borders ceased. Fingolfin despaired, and he gave his crown to Fingon and rode off, never to be seen again, for he challenged Morgoth to a duel and would be slain. Thus Fingon became the king of Hithlum and the High King of the Noldor. If Gil-galad was indeed the son of Fingon, then it would be at this time that he would send his young son away to Falas for safety. After 7 years had passed since the Bragalach, Morgoth again assaulted Hithlum, launching a twofold attack, one from the north and one upon Barad Aethil. A siege was placed at Barad Aethil, and Galdor would be slain there, but Hurin his son broke the siege and slew the orcs. Upon the plains of Hithlum, Fingon's forces were nearly overwhelmed by orcs, until aid came from Falas, an army sent by Círdan and together the two forces defeated the orcs. After Beren and Luthien stole the Silmaril from Morgoth, hope once again began to fill the hearts of the Noldor, and Fingon and Maethros prepared for war. Fingon summoned all he could to Hithlum for the upcoming battle, and many would come. Noldor from Hithlum, a company from Nargothrond, grey elves from Falas, men from Dorlomen and Brethil, and even Torgon from Gondolin came forth. All was ready, or so it seemed, but little did Fingon know they were betrayed by men in the east, among Maethros' host. Thus Morgoth knew all that had been prepared, and he sent scouts forth to Hithlum to coax the army into attacking prematurely. The orcs brought a prisoner, Gelmir, before the host and hewed off his limbs, killing him. This enraged the elves who charged forth. The Nirnaeth Arnoediad began, and would be an utter disaster, with most of the Free People's forces being destroyed. Fingon would be slain in combat with Gothmog, Lord of Balrogs, and Hithlum would be overrun. Many elves attempted to flee, some succeeded, and others were forced to take refuge in the mountains. For their part in betraying the sons of Feanor, the Easterlings were given the lands of Hithlum as their domain. Tuor, the son of Huor, would be fostered by hidden elves in Hithlum until he reached the age of 16, when he would be captured by Lorgan, the Easterling chief. For 3 years, Tuor worked under Lorgan until he made his escape, becoming a lone outlaw before finally escaping Hithlum itself. Once the Valar agreed to aid the Free Peoples against Morgoth, the War of Wrath began. That war brought devastation to many lands, and Hithlum was no different, being devastated beyond repair. When Morgoth was defeated at last, Hithlum, along with the rest of Beleriand, was sunk beneath the waves of Belagar. And that so ends the history of Hithlum. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, feel free to like and subscribe for more content. Thanks, and as the elves say, Namarie.